When is AMC going to experience this Moass? I'm sure I would put my money on it, every last dollar that I own, on the fact that that's probably the biggest question that everyone has. Now, there's some things going on that you guys need to be made aware about that could get us closer or further away from this Moass. And a lot of it can be up for interpretation depending on, what side of the boat you're on or whatnot. But I think it's pretty universal in the facts of the matter. So that's what we're going to talk about here in this video. And let's get straight into it. So when I think about this question, it's not a narrow question. It's a very broad question because it's not just one thing or the other that could cause the next short squeeze or really the big short squeeze. But there's a couple things that we know ultimately would have a massive positive effect on AMC. I guess number one thing I can tell you that pops to my mind is a lot of people are negative on AMC. Lots of people. And typically, the best short squeezes in history happen right after everyone was negative on a stock. Typically, short squeezes that are notable, that rally hard and fast, typically it doesn't happen to well-liked stocks, at least before that ultimate rally, right? Like a Nvidia is not going to 10x in value. It's not going to see a short squeeze like that, or another company, right? Usually the biggest gains and the biggest rallies happen with stocks that are severely disliked, that obviously have a very high short interest. Well, I think AMC perfectly fits that right now. I think it's very much not liked by a lot of people, right? You have to really be an ape to like this stock. A lot of Wall Street, I would say 90% of Wall Street does not like this name. And that's why they continue to be short on the stock, even if it means making no money. It's really to prove a point at this moment in time, to say, hey, retail, you can't do it. You should come join our hedge fund. You should come deposit your money with us. I think that's ultimately what they're trying to do, more or less. It seems like the one thing that would be beneficial in their businesses. Topic for another video. But point is, usually it's not a bad bet to take the contrarian trade. Just like that's why a lot of people were short on Nvidia heading into earnings. It had already rallied over 125% in 2023. People are like, everyone's so bullish, I should take a bearish stance. And then the stock rallies 30%. Sometimes that's how it works. Statistically speaking, to take the other side of that trade, looking at Nvidia as the example, statistically, it made sense to go out and buy some puts. Statistically speaking, a probability basis, that made a lot of sense. Didn't work out, but it made sense. Okay, so that's one thing that I think is pretty crucial to getting a violent short squeeze, is a lot of pessimism. Something else that I think doesn't get recognized enough, in my personal opinion, is the community behind AMC. Not just the people that are currently long in the stock or currently invested in the stock, but people just know of AMC. That's it. That's the bottom line. People know about AMC. And I think that holds a lot of weight, and I think that holds a lot of power in and of itself. Another thing is obviously fundamentals. Fundamentals tend to be a very important thing in the stock market. Ultimately, everything in time reverts back to fundamental valuations. And where you're currently at right now, is a place that is much better than it has been since this movement has started, since retail started buying AMC. It's never looked better than what it looks like right now, fundamentally speaking. And we're even seeing over this weekend, The Little Mermaid, out of all movies, made $95.5 million so far in this Memorial Day weekend. This is the 5th highest grossing film in this weekend of all time. And I think that's obviously something to look at here. And I think we've continued to get this kind of news with some of these smaller tier films, kind of not your blockbusters, not your worst movies, but definitely not your blockbusters, outperforming. Now, throughout the rest of this year, we're going to have a lot more movies starting to go to theaters. Really, that movie season starts to pick up in June because kids get out of school. They can sell a lot more movie tickets. Most movies tend to be released in summertime and in the beginning of fall. That's just how the industry works. So I think this is kind of a precursor on what we can expect throughout the rest of 2023. Now, fundamentals this, fundamentals that, profitability. That's the only thing that matters in this trade if you want to talk about fundamentals. AMC has already gotten to a place of free cash flow positive. They've already got there. Now, when you factor in EBITDA, right? Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization, they're not net profitable yet. And that's obviously including interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So they're not quite there yet, but they're getting closer. And a lot of these initiatives, like the popcorn business, like the variable pricing on movie theater seats, I think are huge factors for AMC that will help push them to profitability. Not to mention the fact AMC is starting their own brand of popcorn. I think that's kind of interesting. I'm not sure how much, or not popcorn, but candy line. I'm not sure how much of an impact that will ultimately have on the business in the shorter term. I think it will have an impact, but it might take a while. It might take a year or so. So based off the things that we have just seen be announced and started to be implemented over the past 3 to 6 months is going to help get us to profitability at some point in 2023, like Adam Aaron also says that he thinks. Adam Aaron says he thinks profitability will be coming later in 2023. And ultimately, I think that's a big catalyst for getting a short squeeze, because the whole reason people are short on stocks, you want to pick on any one factor, it's an unprofitable stock. That's why people are short. And that's why shorts refuse to cover on these short positions. Because ultimately, if AMC is unprofitable for long enough, they're going to go bankrupt. Why cover on your short position if it, does this or that? So I think that is something to look ahead to. And we'll kind of talk about when I expect AMC to become profitable, when I think a short squeeze could come based off of that alone. But here in the more near term, there's also some big factors that are going to have a heavy role to play in the price action of AMC stock. Number one, you're going to get GME earnings that come out after the bell on Wednesday, May 31st. So in this upcoming week. Now, GameStop is expected to report a loss per share of 12 cents on revenue of $1.36 billion. This compares to the year ago quarter when the loss was 52 cents per share on revenue of $1.38 billion. Now, GME had their first quarter of net profits last quarter, and that pushed up GME, that pushed up AMC, that pushed up basically the whole sector. Well, now what you have seen since then is GME obviously sold off after earnings from $27 down to a low of about $18. Is that an ice cream truck? What? I ain't seen an ice cream truck in a long time. Okay. Pushed it down to about $18 per share. Oh, some of those cotton candy ice creams, and there's those watermelon sour like ice creams. Oh my gosh, so good. But nonetheless, push the stock down to $18 per share. Now it's back up to the levels that you were at after last earnings from GME. I think if GME has positive earnings again and can beat analyst expectations and give us a profit, well, maybe they don't even have to do that. Maybe they just mention AI and how AI is going to help their business and the stock rallies. Then I think in that scenario, that would also help fuel a rally with AMC stock. Now, that's a near-term catalyst. That's like literally in this upcoming week. But I think someone somewhere knows something. And why I think this is because if you take a look at AMC's reported short interest, if you believe the government's numbers, which I don't think a lot of us do, but if we take it as the truth, it looks like a lot of shorts covered on their short positions recently, from 26% short interest of free float, 27% at the peak, to 20.5%. So a drop from the peak to now of about 6.5% of the free float that was covered. You really haven't seen a move that would justify that in AMC share price. So what does that tell me? Well, that tells me if these numbers were to be legal and correct, that someone somewhere knows something, and something is bullishly coming for AMC. Someone wanted to get out of Dodge before that bullish catalyst did come. So in terms of a short squeeze, shorts actually covering like this, if these are real numbers, again, I'll probably reiterate it a couple more times because I don't think they are. But if these numbers are true and shorts are all of a sudden starting to cover, that leads me to believe that there is some pretty positive news coming around the corner. So, also a weird sign. Now, on that same note, what you're seeing from Intera Capital, they just sold 500 shares of AMC Entertainment, but they sold 500,000 shares of It's Actually Ape. And they sold this at an average price of $1.60. And they've been selling a lot of stock almost on a every couple of day basis. They're selling more and more shares of Ape. Now, they currently own 144.7 million shares of Ape, valued at approximately $231 million. So I think this, is a positive sign if they continue to sell more Ape. If this was such a home run trade and shorts were right with certainty on this, as Intera Capital's positioning prior would have kind of said or somewhat supported, right? Going long on Ape, shorting AMC by, owning almost 30% of Ape. That's a pretty bearish bet on AMC Entertainment itself, on the main company. They continue to sell stock, which you usually don't sell a winning trade this quickly. And that is what it looks like they are doing. So when I put some of these factors together, and then I also consider the underlying margin and collateral situation with AMC. So we've talked about this before. I'm not going to dive too far into it. But AMC is a risky name to short. I think that's pretty clear. So is GME. These two stocks are really standout loaners in this category. So when hedge funds want to short these names, they have to put up a lot of collateral to do so. And it's got to be high quality collateral. The high quality collateral is your 5 or 10 largest names in the markets that just seem to go higher and higher. And people think they're literally immune from any economic slowdown that America sees, which obviously is, I would be very surprised if that is true. So it's probably not true. But virtually all of the collateral is focused in these names. Now, these names continue to rally, and the broad markets continue to fall and trade sideways. So ultimately, when these stocks do come down, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when these stocks come down. When they come down, that's going to be a very negative thing for short sellers' liquidity, right? It's going to mean pledging more shares as collateral in these AMC short positions. It might mean covering on a short position because they need to free up some capital. So I can't forecast when that is going to be, but that is something also I am watching very closely. And you could see this. I'll pull it up. It's the market breadth of the NASDAQ. This top line is the NASDAQ. This bottom line is the advanced decliner line, ADL line, basically telling you what average stocks are doing. NASDAQ is ripping. Average stocks are falling. Ultimately, that's not a good liquidity position to be at if you're a hedge fund with a short position on AMC. I think that is also a well-known fact. Now, on top of that, the biggest catalyst of all for AMC, besides AMC's ultimate profitability, is this court case. And like the street says, this court case is likely to be a super bullish catalyst for AMC Entertainment. Why they said this, why the street thinks this, I'm not exactly sure. But I'm in kind of the same camp here that things aren't going to be as smooth and saily and peachy as some of these shorts and arbitrage traders do believe themselves. So when I add these factors together, from here, it looks like some point in 2023, you are going to see the Moass with AMC stock. One of these catalysts is going to happen. Either AMC's profitability, positive situation from this court case, liquidity drying up, forcing shorts to cover. Maybe it's positive GME earnings just this week. One of these things, if not multiples of these things, are going to happen some point, in my opinion, in the next couple of months, guys. So that is going to do it. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.